Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first commish address of the season. I'm going to cover weeks 1 and 2 in this episode, and I'm going to break it all down for you as to where everything sits, and we're going to have a little fun along the way. So let's dive right into it, shall we? So going all the way back to week 1, which was only 2 weeks ago, but it seems like an eternity. We'll start with the Joe Buck Yourself Panty Raiders match. Panty Raiders taking that one 106-86. Joe Buck Yourself squad just didn't show up that week. It was a tough loss, and no surprise, I start 0-1. And the newcomer, Keith, starts at 1-0, which is a nice first outing for him. Moving on to Billy Large and Clug the Plug. I mean, was there ever any doubt that Billy was going to take this one after the draft that Clug the Plug had? That was ugly. Even if it was auto draft, he still drafted 2 fucking kickers. I don't understand that one, but I mean, hey, it's his squad, not mine. So Billy Large easily taking that one 124-70. Moving over to Race Finkles and the Mighty Ducks. Race Finkles taking that one 109-93. Probably a lot tighter than a lot of folks would have thought, but I digress. Race Finkles moving to 1-0 after week 1, and the Mighty Ducks 0-1, which seems to be par for the course for the Mighty Ducks. Maybe he'll turn it around in week 3. Moving over to the Rogers Dodgers Wendell Beckham's game. Wendell Beckham's so far, I mean, after week 1, putting up a $125, and we'll get into his week 2 performance, but he's been steamrolling his way through, so he had a nice showing there, and he picks up the win to move him to 1-0 after week 1. And then moving over to Vic This and Rosturbation. Rosturbation only putting up 85.9. That typically won't get her done. So he takes a loss against Vic This, 101-85. And then Suck My Ditka taking the loss, moving to 0-1, losing to newcomer Hanging with Hernandez. In a tight game, actually, it was 96-90. So that was a little bit tighter game. So that is covering week 1. In terms of our Jackass of the Week for week 1, let's see if that one's gonna go to Mr. Bart Garvey. That draft was just horrendous, and you're gonna be busy on that waiver wire for the rest of the season, I have a feeling, because you didn't draft jack shit. So our week 1 Jackass goes to Mr. Bart Garvey, and our blowout of the week in week 1. Let's see if the sound effect's gonna work here. Well, Billy Large holds that title in week 1, beating Clug the Plug by 55 points. That was a laugher. So congrats, Billy, on your week 1 blowout of the week title. So getting into week 2, a little more recent here. Again, I'm going to start with Joe Buck Yourself taking on Race Finkles. Led the way by Devonta Freeman and Emmanuel Sanders. Sanders with the 2 touchdowns, and Freeman also had 2 touchdowns as well. They led the way, followed up by a solid defensive performance, whereas Race Finkles starting Dak Prescott against a Denver D. Oof, it's risky on the best of days, but hey, it's his team. And then LeGarrette Blount putting up the goose egg for him in Philly. Greg Olsen leaving with a broken foot. I mean, hey, it's the way it goes. So Joe Buck Yourself picking up the win, pulling him to 1-1, and dropping Race Finkles to 1-1 with a 111-94 victory. Moving over to Rogers Dodgers and Billy Large. Rogers Dodgers came out gunning this week. Crabtree with the 3 touchdowns. Gronk had a nice day. Gillisley hawked a touchdown there in New England. And it was just too much for Billy Large and his Carson Wentz team. Carson Wentz-led team. Meanwhile, Wentz had a nice day. Just wasn't enough for him. So Rogers Dodgers picking up the win there, 136-106, in a relatively decent showing for him. Moving over to the Panty Raiders and Rosturbation. Rosturbation picking up the W here, led by Drew Brees. Travis Kelce also had a nice day with a $103. Mike Evans, Carlos Hyde actually shredded the Seattle D, which was a surprise. And Panty Raiders just didn't have enough across the board. Jameis Winston was okay, but not great. Granted, he didn't have to be. He was playing the Bears, but fantasy-wise, that didn't bode well for him. So Panty Raiders picks up the loss, moving him to 1-1. Rosterbation picking up the W, moving him to 1-1 with a 123.98 win. Yeah, so moving over to Clug the Plug and Suck My Ditka in the tightest match of the week, a .82 victory for Clug the Plug, which I think most of us would consider an upset. But hey, it's fantasy, anything can happen. He had a nice day from actually his defense and his kicker were probably his two best players, Clug the Plug. Suck My Ditka suffered from a soft defensive performance. So, yeah, Antonio Brown's been a little quiet this year so far. Granted, Gurley showed some life this week. So, we'll see what happens next week. Either way, drops Suck My Ditka to 0-2 and pulls Clug the Plug to 1-1. Moving over to Vic This and the Mighty Ducks. This one was a laugher. Vic This throwing up a $1.30 to the Mighty Ducks 78. Jordy Nelson leaving that game did not help the Mighty Ducks, and DeMarco Murray also didn't have much of a day, whereas the combination of Ty Montgomery and CJ Anderson for Vic This propelled him to victory quite easily. So that moves Vic This to 2-0 atop his division and drops the Mighty Ducks to 0-2. And our final game of the week, the Wendell Beckhams versus Hanging with Hernandez. Tom Brady with almost 40 points for the Wendell Beckhams, and Kareem Hunt, who's been a gem for him so far, to say the least. Yeah, he takes the win 136-99. So that moves the Wendell Beckhams to 2-0 atop his division and Hanging with Hernandez with 100 points. So we got a lot of 1-1 teams. Like I said, we have Vic This atop the Rockstar division and the Wendell Beckhams atop the Benchwarmers division. And then a bunch of 1-1 teams, Suck My Ditka at the bottom of the Benchwarmers division and the Mighty Ducks the bottom of the Rockstar division, which is familiar territory for him. The Jackass of the Week for week 2. Let's see. Is going to go to Race Finkel, starting Dak Prescott over that Denver D. That Denver D is arguably the best in the league. Dak Prescott obviously is not as good a quarterback as we all thought, unless he has Zeke running for 200 in front of him. So, any quarterback's going to look good when you got that kind of run game. Fortunately, Zeke was shut down, which means Dak virtually disappeared. That was a gamble, a stupid one, I think, at that. So he's going to be our Jackass of the Week and our Blowout of the Week. Let's see if this is going to work. Well, that belongs to Vic This over the Mighty Ducks with a 51-point victory. Nicely done by Derek Flash. Again, his running back duo propelled him to victory. So, moving into week 3, we got a fucking snooze fest tonight. We got the Niners and Rams. Not a lot of fantasy implications there. Our first game over in London is the Jags and the Ravens. So it should be a good week. We got some key matchups fantasy-wise. So everyone keep your eyes peeled, and hopefully we can maybe start getting some separation here in the league. And yeah, I'll be back next week, end of week 3, and with your update. It'll be much shorter. Obviously, I had to cover 2 weeks this time. So until next week, keep playing that wire. All hail the commish.